Joined now by my broadcast partner, Bills radio color analyst, former center Eric Wood, who's also host of the Centered on Buffalo podcast, as we dice up Bills Chiefs here. Eric, and I wanted to bounce this one off you because we've discussed it on the broadcasts this season and on the show when you've joined us here. But the 6 offensive lineman look that the Bills have deployed about 15% of their snaps, it's worked very well for them. They're averaging about 5 yards a carry. Last week we saw them work some play action off of it with some success. The Chiefs are number 3 in run defense. You know, they're a pretty good front. How do we think the Chiefs come up with answers for that package?
Yeah, I'd assume you could see base defense against it, but you know, that package works a number of things at once. So one, you get an extra blocker, you get an extra O lineman out there in the run game. They've had great success doing it. It can often distort the defense because are they counting him as a tight end? It can often, you know, if you use that with 12 personnel, which the Bills have done, it makes it tough to be gap sound up front. They've also used Alec Anderson in motion this year, and that could really compromise, you know, who has which gap on the play. When obviously when you run play action, you're going to get an extra blocker unless you sent Alec Anderson out on a route, which they have not done yet this season. But maybe at some point we'll see a big man touchdown or a big man catch get on Marcus Spears segment on that Monday Night Countdown. But and then another thing it does, and I don't want this to be lost because Edwards played that spot last year, and now he hops in this year with a lot of experience being on the field. And so Alec Anderson being out there for all those snaps this season, he's also gaining experience running with the starters out there. He's been in a game before. And so if he has to fill in, and, you know, I don't know that he's the backup at all 5 spots. We saw Ryan Vandermark fill in for Spencer Brown last week, but I would assume he's the backup for the interior 3. Now you got a guy that's got a lot of reps on the field.
And you see this game coming up, and we were just commenting on it a minute ago. Everybody is treating it as if it was a playoff game, and the way it looks, these teams may well meet in the playoffs. They're both going to get in if they can win a game, or however it's going to happen that they meet again. Do you coach this game differently? Kind of seeing that coming down the pike. I mean, do you put some wrinkles in this game particularly with the health of the roster? You don't have Cooper. You don't have Keon Coleman, or you may not have Cooper. You don't have Keon Coleman. Kincaid's a question mark. You go into this kind of, half-loaded. Do you use this game as a precursor to, as a Browning word, as a precursor to your matchup that you may or may not get?
Well, I'll say this, and I've been peppered with this question all week. It's fascinating because the Bills have beat the Chiefs, obviously, in the regular season the last 3 seasons, and then 2 out of the last 3 years, they got bounced by them in the playoffs. So are we showing them too much during the regular season? You know, are we showing our hand and they're not showing theirs? I don't know that that's the case. Of course, stuff you run in this game could be a setup in the next one, especially if you run something effectively. If you're able to run 6 offensive linemen out there and you're running that inside zone off of it that they run so well, okay, well, then the play action off of it the next time should in turn work. Now, I don't think you hold anything back in this one, and I know this can be a fairly unpopular take if you search social media right now, but I don't think you hold anything back. You give the Chiefs a loss. Who knows what happens the rest of the season, but you also have Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Houston right on your heels for that 2 seed, that 3 seed. And, you know, if the Bills win the division, which I think it's something like 99.9% chance they make the playoffs right now. I guess it's a little bit less than that they win the division, but you want to host playoff games in January in Buffalo. So I don't think you hold anything back in this one. And we already know that Cooper's out. If Coleman or Kincaid can't go, but those guys are available for the playoff game, if we were to face the Chiefs, it's going to look like a totally different offense anyways, without just naturally based upon the different personnel in that one.
All right, so let's talk about player availability. Yes, it's very much up in the air right now, but let's just say in the scorched earth scenario where there's no Cooper or Kincaid along with Coleman this week, you're really getting down to bare bones. Is this a week where you could see James Cook finally factor a little bit more into the passing game to try to generate some kind of mismatches out there?
Yeah, I think so. And the vulnerability of this Chiefs defense in the pass game is up the middle. And they've given up the most yards to tight ends in the league this season. And so Dawson Knox certainly can still be a factor there at tight end. And then, getting James Cook maybe working the middle of the field. Ty Johnson had some nice catches in the playoff game from a year ago. He was a factor in the pass game a week ago as well. He's turned into a great third down back. And the beauty of it is he's also the tush push guy. So when they are out there for a third down and they get to a 4th and 1, they can hop right up in their personnel group and they got the guy they want out there for the tush push in Ty Johnson. And so, there's going to have to be guys that step up, and whether that's James Cook, whether we see some, 2-back personnel back there with Ray Davis and James Cook. Last week we saw James Cook and Ty Johnson on the field at the same time, and Ray Davis's usage was a little more limited last week against the Colts, and not sure exactly why, other than they got 3 good backs and you feed the hot hand, and based upon the passing situations at times, you feel more comfortable with Ty Johnson. And if teams are going to continue to blitz, you like having a veteran like Ty Johnson back there. But, this is a Chiefs defense that was ranked high in all categories a year ago, and the Bills were able to run the ball effectively on them in the playoffs. Now, their leading rusher was Josh Allen in that game, and you often see it with both these quarterbacks that in this matchup, and especially in the playoffs, those quarterbacks are not afraid to take off when everything's on the line. And so, it might be a week as well where you don't want to, take a chance of getting dinged up with the bye coming up. I think you could see Josh Allen, incorporate himself into the run game even more, especially if Coleman and Kincaid are both out.
So we've seen the Bills struggle in the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season converting on third down. Now they're getting a big uptick in the third down conversion. What's changed?
It's stupid to say, but execution. Now, Josh is stealing a few more with his legs, and I think they're doing a better job on first and second down. I don't have the data in front of me to prove that. I wish I did, but that's how it feels as we're calling the game. They're getting to more 3rd and 1s. There's more QB sneaks. There's more, run plays on 3rd and 1 that are allowing them to convert for third downs. But when Josh hurt his hand in week 1 against Arizona, there was a number of weeks where there was first downs out there for him to go grab with his legs, and he didn't do it. I also think, even though there's been some injuries in the receiving core, when you can create more of a relationship with these guys. You come into the season, Shakir's the only receiver to have caught a pass in a game from Josh Allen. Well, you grow more comfortable with those guys. We've seen guys like Coleman convert a number of third downs throughout this season, especially obviously prior to the injury, but leading up to that injury, he was doing a better job out there as well. And so you got him growing in his relationship with the receivers. You have this whole group working together more often, and then Josh stealing some with his legs. I assumed, ever since I've been calling these games for the Bills, they've been so good on third down. I mean, they're top 5 every single year. Even when they were struggling early in the season last year with Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator, struggling at times, they still were ranked top 5 in third down offense. And so they're starting to revert back to that. They just had a rough stretch to start the season on third down.
Yeah, and just to take that a step further, Eric, they've spread it around on third down over these last 3 games too, to some degree by necessity with Coleman out and some other guys dinged. But in these last 3 games where they've gone 50% conversion or better, 8 different players have at least 1 conversion on third down for Buffalo. 5 different players have provided 3 or more conversions. And even on big plays, 4 different players have at least 1 play of 20 yards or more. How much more difficult does it make it for opponents to defend them when they're getting that kind of distribution?
This is why I love working with you, dude. It's unbelievable. These stats every week, we do that roundtable together, and we go in that pregame, and every point I make, even if we haven't talked about it, he's got just incredible stats to back it up. At times, I think maybe he loads Steve with a question so that I answer, and then he can maybe throw out.
I'm not that good, Eric. Thank you, but I'm not that good.
No, just kidding. No, that's great research there, and that backs it up perfectly, and that makes it tough. And it's easy to say, at time, Josh has so much fewer turnovers this year because he's spreading the ball around. He doesn't feel like he needs to force it to Diggs at times. He doesn't feel like he needs to validate Gabe Davis as a number 2 receiver. He's great friends with him. He wants him to get the ball. He wants to get paid. You're not forcing the ball to anybody this year. You're spreading it around, and that makes it tough on a defense. And yeah, he's got a great relationship with Khalil Shakir in the passing game to where there is surefire of a connection as anyone in the league, still tops, even with some mishaps in recent weeks in the pass game with those guys. But what they've been able to do in spreading the ball around makes them very difficult to defend.
What about this game? And you see it coming in, and the Chiefs are. If you're the Chiefs, how do you feel about this game? Certainly, there is the desire to be a historic team that goes undefeated. But their margin of error is even bigger than the Bills in their division, right? I mean, there's nobody that's going to touch them in the AFC West. Maybe the Chargers are going to hang in there
they're
and get
three
in.
back in the loss column.
Right, they're 3 back in the loss. So, if you're the Chiefs coming in, it's kind of the same question for them as it is the Bills. However, they've got, they've got this spot in history that they're playing for that all of us out here thinks that's pretty important.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. You got an opportunity to do something historic. When they were 9-0 in 2003, I was actually at the Bengals game to watch them get beat. I hope I witnessed for the second time. They've had two 12-0 starts or two 9-0 starts in franchise history, and in 2003, I got to witness it get being broken by the Bengals. And I think this is a Chiefs-Bills rivalry now where you play each other as much as you do your own division rivals. There's so much familiarity. There's chippiness. There's guys that are ticked about some guy did 2 games ago. And yeah, I mean, both teams want this win badly. It is what it is. I mean, all talk of the offseason, between these two franchises, especially us, is can you get over the hump with Kansas City? I realize that a regular season win doesn't do anything invalidating all their, us not beating them in the playoffs, not winning Super Bowls like they have. But, the more times you can beat someone, prove it to yourself you can, I think you likely take more confidence into the postseason knowing that, the last 4 years, if you can do it this week, there'd be the last 4 years in the regular season, you beat them.
Takeaways have been, a big part of Buffalo's success, not only on this 5-game winning streak, but pretty much all season, Eric. They've gotten at least one takeaway in every game, as you well know, which leads the league for the longest current active streak, and it stretches back even to last season based on what you were telling us on the broadcast last week, which I was unaware of, by the way. But in any event, it would seem to me that knowing how hard it is to get Kansas City's offense off the field with their number 1 third down conversion rate. They have the most 10-play drives in the NFL. They lead the league in time of possession. Takeaways have to happen in this game to get Buffalo's offense the extra possessions they need to probably win this game.
Yeah, it almost feels like a different script of what the Bills did to Kansas City, unable to get the win, but what the Bills did to Kansas City in the playoffs with our injured linebackers, and we wanted to possess the ball. We did really well on third down in that game last year. Kansas City goes 1 for 5. We have 37 minutes of time of possession to their 23. We outgained them on the ground. We just couldn't come up with the play at the end. And it seems like Kansas City's situation this year is, we're down some weapons on offense with Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco. And, we're going to milk this clock. We don't have quite the weapons, but our defense is going to keep us in it. And you give us the ball at the end, we're probably going to beat you. And they have each and every game this year. There's been obviously some close calls. You got the Isaiah Likely, toe on the end line in week 1. You got the blocked field goal last week. You got a penalty against Atlanta. I mean, there's been really close calls, so they could be sitting here coming in at 6-3. But this is a team that we say it all the time, and call it cliche or whatever. They know how to win right now. Patrick Mahomes, you give him 4 downs at the end of a game. If he gets in 4-down territory, they move the sticks. They did in the Super Bowl. They've done it against everybody. And so, yeah, if you're able to force turnovers in this one, cause some havoc on defense, this is an opportunity to stick defense. These guys go after the ball. They got a lot of experience. Taron Johnson, Christian Benford, those are the types of guys that somehow, I never played defense, especially at a high level, but go make a tackle and punch at the ball at the same time. I just always felt like if a defender is going for the ball too much, you're going to run right through them. Those guys have unique ability to go for the ball and bring the ball carrier down. And then to me, what it always comes down to against Kansas City is, can you apply pressure with a 4-man rush? And, you bring in Von Miller a couple years ago, and we had the game at Kansas City. Von, that's when we touted him the closer. We had a lead. Von's creating pressure like crazy. I think that was when Milano got the pick. Maybe I'm thinking of another one as well. But that's when we said Von's the closer. Him and Rousseau on the edge. Can't wait to see this. And it just didn't come to fruition because of injuries and whatnot. But now we got both those guys healthy. Got Ed Oliver, who you paid. A.J. Epinesa is rushing the passer at a great clip right now. Daquan Jones can still pressure from the inside. Jefferson gets a sack last week. Can we get pressure with a 4-man rush, contain Mahomes in the pocket, create some pressure? I love the Bills' chances of getting out of here with a win if so.
Yeah. Good stuff, Eric. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, my pleasure. See you
All
guys
right,
this weekend.
safe travels. We'll see you on Sunday.
Appreciate it.